Your resume header is going to be the first thing an employer sees and really their first impression of you. So you want to make sure it looks good. We're going to take a quick look at a few different examples because really the design options for your resume header are limitless. If we look at this first one, it's pretty traditional. You'll notice that the font is at least size 24. In fact, all the fonts in these examples range between size 24 and 36. So you want to make sure your name is nice and large and stands out. In this case, everything is left justified, and again, make sure you're viewing your ruler so you can make sure that everything is lined up properly. This candidate has chosen to include their physical home address. You really don't need to do that. What we really want to make sure of is that at least the employer can contact you. So if you don't choose to include your home address, you may just include the city and the province, or you definitely, in any case, need to include the email address and a phone number so that somebody can get a hold of you. This address and contact information is all lined up on one line above the other, so it takes up a fair amount of space. So if you're looking to save space on your resume, you might want to consider one of our further options that we'll look at in a second. It's divided from the rest of the resume by a nice line here. Again, to insert that, you go to Insert Shapes and pick the straight line, and then you can format that any way you wish by right-clicking. You can change the color, the weight, or the thickness, and make it look however you'd like. If we scroll down, this is a much different looking resume header. This one is, I would say, more modern looking. You can see that the name, instead of being all on one line, is stacked on top of one another. And then the contact information is all justified to the right here and includes these really cool icons which make it look, again, really modern and pretty slick. So up to you, but this is a great option that I really like the look of. The next one is much more traditional. This one is centered on the page. If you're going to center your name and your header, I would suggest that's the only part of your resume that you justify in the center. Everything else should be left justified. This candidate has chosen to include their address and then their contact information, not all stacked on top of each other, but instead with the address all on one line. This is a great space-saving option instead of like the first one that we looked at where you're really taking up 5 or 6 lines for your contact info. This one's used color pretty effectively. Again, if you take a look at the font size, it's, I think, 36. Yeah, 36. They've chosen bare minimum contact information, email address, phone number, LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profile is always great to include. If you don't know, you can get a personalized URL address through LinkedIn for free. So take a look in that. This last one is pretty untraditional. The address and the contact information is centered on the right-hand side, where the name is really large on the left. If you're going to do this, just make sure that your contact information isn't just floating around in the middle of the page. A great way to be able to move font around beyond what Word usually lets you do is by inserting a text box. And if you don't know how to do that, you just go to Insert, Text Box. And then you can actually just draw it, type in whatever you want, and then like this address, which is what I've used here, you can move it wherever you want. So that gives you a little bit of added flexibility. Then, of course, you want to format it by right-clicking, and you want to make sure that you remove the line because you don't want your text box in a line. You really want it to just appear as though it's sitting there by itself. So you're going to choose no line, and then it's still there, but it looks invisible. So I hope this helps you consider a few different options for how to create your resume header. Remember, this is your employer's first impression of you, and don't forget, if you're going to have more than one page of your resume, you should include this personalized header on the top of any pages of your resume, as well as the top of your cover letter and your reference page, as we'll explore in a couple of weeks. This is really your personalized letterhead, so put some thought into how you design it.